You mentioned the immigration coming to Canada, right? So I read somewhere they're anticipating at least 1.5 million new immigrants coming
Yeah.
to Canada this year. And you said how many new bills are going up? What's the number?
I don't remember. I think it's something like 30 or 50,000 or something.
30, 50,000
Units.
units
But also, wait, that being said, those are units that are already currently in the process
are being built.
being built.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now in the pre-construction market, which is where there's a lot of issues in the pre-construction market. So if you don't know what happens in a pre-construction market, if you're looking at a condo, you're buying a condo. Let's use the condo as an example, not houses, because houses get flipped a little bit quicker. So houses can be built faster.
Yeah.
But in my situation, we bought condos. We bought one, I think with my buddy and I think 2015 or 2016, and we just closed on it. This is 2023, like before Christmas last year. The other one we bought in 2019. We're closing now 5 years later. So what happens is that you buy things off a plan in anticipation in how many years it's going to be built. Usually anywhere from 4 to 7 or 8 years. But a lot of times we're trying to predict what the market's going to be like in those 4 to 5 years. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. And now so the good thing is some of these builders are making you get a mortgage approval from the banks. So I'll give you an example. Why that helps is when you close on the property in 4 or 5 years, you don't have to get a mortgage because you're already qualified. Now, traditionally, a bank will only give you a mortgage which is less than 24 months out. But some of these builders have partnered with banks to make exceptions. So, for example, the one we've just got, we were approved with RBC. RBC was the bank. You had to go use RBC as the bank, and you qualify for a rate. I think it was like 325 or 356 at the time. We thought it was way high. I'm like, oh, no way it's going to get that high. But at least we qualified for a mortgage. And then on closing, if the rate is higher, you can use that mortgage at 352 or 356, whatever it is. Or if the rate was lower, you didn't have to, you can get your own lender, right? But the banks, or no, sorry, the lenders or for the builder want to see that. They want to make sure that the buyers that are purchasing the units can actually afford it, right? So the problem we're seeing right now is with the high interest rates, there's a couple things. It's like, one, the prices are no longer supported from what we thought they were going to be. So a lot of times these builders are baking in a price of value, future value. So I have a situation right now where we're selling some properties up north. Some of these guys paid anywhere from $1.6 to $1.8 million. Well, when they closed last year, some of these, for example, I had this one agent call me because we were in the complex. His client had paid 1.6 for his property. The bank only evaluated that property at $1 million. So which means they will only fund that home up to $1 million. Well, they purchased 1.6 for the property. They're going to have to find $600,000 to close this property.
Yeah.
Not everybody has 600. Where do you get that money?
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is too, when they're looking at the numbers, it didn't make sense to close on because the market value was much lower. So again, banks may be a little more conservative, but that home was only worth maybe 1.2 million. In order for it to get up to 1.6, they're going to have to carry this property for a long period of time. They're going to have to borrow that $600,000, probably at a 10, 15%, and they're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
So even though these people have purchased the property, these buyers have purchased the property, and they've already put 20% down. So 1.6 million, 20% down, it's like $300,000.
Yeah.
They're walking away. They're leaving the deposit. So now the builder's going to have to sue them. There's all this legal, but they're foregoing their deposit.
Because it's not worth it in the long
run.
Well,
they can't. Exactly. They just can't. It just doesn't justify it. They'd rather lose 300 than borrow 600 and go bankrupt. And I get it because it's already at that point, it's a sunk cost. The problem is the builder later on, if he sells it at a deficit, that property, they can go after them.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, there's just more legalities on there. The second issue we have is we're talking off air, which we're seeing at our own property. What happens with the condo corporation, again, back there, that they get everybody to get these mortgages so they're approved. Then their lender will say, okay, so these people are approved, great. And they give them funding based on certain parameters. But again, the builder owns the property till all the units are fully done. And I think some of the common areas basically is that they can hand over the keys to the units. But in the meantime, they're not going to be spending all the money. They don't want to be spending all the money because it doesn't make sense. If your unit's ready for you to move in, you should front some of the costs. This is how the pre-construction works.
Yeah.
So in our situation, I think there's 36 stories. What they do is they build the condo, they build basement. Obviously, they build all of the parking and all that, the structure, and then they build up to the 36 stories. They build the outside, make sure everything is tight and good to go, and then they start floor by floor, and they start renovating, and they start making sure each floor is ready. Once each floor is ready, those unit holders, the builder, again, you can't own the property till the whole thing is complete. But again, he doesn't want to front all of the costs. So if you're on the second floor, for example, he's going to give you the keys, and they're going to say, okay, you now have to pay us an occupancy fee up until the whole condo gets registered into your name. And that could be a long time, because again, if you have 36 stories, you're here, you have to wait. You're on the second floor, you have to wait till all the rest of 35 are ready. And they do that. So the higher you go up, the less occupancy you get them in there, because they start at the bottom, work their way up. So because these interest rates are so high, right, we got pushed back. Like the occupancy is almost double what the mortgage rate is going to be. Right?
Double.
Right, double. So for example, my unit, we're on the 19th floor. We were lucky enough because our unit was large enough that they were using it to bring materials in. So they finished all the way up to 36, and they started those units all the way up. So we were on the corner where they were bringing all the shafts. Anyway, so we were lucky enough. Our unit, 800 square feet, the interest rate, which you have to carry, is over 8% they're charging us. It's $5,100 a month for us to carry this property on occupancy. We may get $3,000 on rent, maybe 32. I would say at max, maybe $3,500.
Is this like a 2-bedroom?
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, parking and locker in Etobicoke. So we're going to run a deficit, but it also takes time for somebody to get in there.
Yeah.
So
like a good tenant too.
A good tenant. So every month I'm going to be losing money up until it gets registered. So, and they don't think it's going to be registered for at least another 90 days, if not longer. So I'm going to be losing money. Even one of my clients, which is a lower level than me, he's got half the size of the unit. His was like 500 square feet. He's paying $4,100. We just rented his property for $2,250. He's losing $2,000 a month. And for how many months, we don't know, because again, you're at the mercy of the builder to register you. I've also heard some builders registering their property 2 years later. That's crazy. Like, so you're spending this phantom mortgage. It's not going towards your mortgage. It's not going to, you're just paying, you're paying rent.
You're bleeding cash.
You're bleeding cash. You're basically paying rent to the builder to live in your own unit.
Yeah.
So people, some can't afford that, and the investors, because they're in deficit, are also walking away.
In your experience, when you have people in this type of situation, how long do they go until they say, enough is enough? I can't continue doing this. I'm selling this unit. Because with inflation and everything, and you're bleeding cash, like $2,000 is a lot of money just to be forking out.
So this is also why there's the assignment sale. So an assignment sale, what it is before the changes hands between the builder to the purchaser, the pre-construction, you're able to assign that paperwork to another buyer, right? Because you don't want to take that. They're like, so that's why as soon as those interest rates went up, people writing their numbers, the assignment, which is the secondary market, let's call it, went crazy. And people were literally taking less than that they purchased the pre-construction just so they didn't have to pay for it, just so they can get out of this deal. And sometimes, depending on the builder will allow you a lot of times to do one assignment, but the builder also has to approve of the new person assigning it. They can also kibosh it if they want to. So they have to approve it. And sometimes you have to pay a fee to assign it, like $5,000 or $10,000. Sometimes it's waived, sometimes it's not. But since these interest rates went up, I've never seen so many assignments in my life. It's crazy.
Yeah.